Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Dialogue. I'm Taimur. Shamil. India has the capability to blow out normal, harmless incidents out of proportion. Recently, on Thursday, a phone call between Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Pakistan's foreign minister, and all parties Hurriyat conference leader Mirwais Umar Farooq had a phone call talk, and this thing baffled India. Indian Foreign Affairs Ministry criticized the phone call, and this is not the first time that India has been criticizing Pakistan's communication with the Kashmiri leaders, and that has a reason, because India for the last 70 years has been carrying out atrocities in Indian occupied Kashmir, and Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir. Pakistan stands with the Kashmiri leaders in a country, in a land where you use pellet guns against innocent children, you kill women, you kill older people, and you occupy the land. What else can any other country like Pakistan can do for the Kashmiri people? Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir. This is Pakistan's stance, that the Indian atrocities in Kashmir should stop, that the people of Kashmir should have their right to self-determination, and also that the international community should keep a check on what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. So this phone call was primarily to show Pakistan's solidarity with the people of Kashmir, with the leaders of Kashmiri movement. Today we are going to discuss about the Indian atrocities in Kashmir, the cause of Kashmir, and where do we stand at the moment. Would the international community put pressure on India to stop the killings of innocent people in Kashmir? Would the international community do it? Would the big powers in the world do this thing? Or is it just about trade? Is it just about economy and having better relations with India? This is the time that while Asia is rising, that we all talk about a world which has human rights, where we can live peacefully. Other countries in the region need to teach India what actually human rights is. To discuss all this, we have our guest in the studios. Our first guest is Ambassador Aslam Rizvi. He's a renowned senior diplomat and expert on Pakistan's foreign policy and Pakistan's relations with India. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Second guest is Brigadier retired Aftab Afzal. He is a renowned senior defense analyst and also expert on Pakistan's relations with India and on the issues of line of control and working boundary. Sir, welcome to the show. Ambassador Rizvi, starting with what is happening in India, in Kashmir for that matter. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi had a conversation, as I just said in my introduction, with the all parties Hurriyat conference, Mirwais Umar Farooq. Obviously they talked about peace in Kashmir, but India is baffled by this phone call and they criticized this phone call. Whenever Pakistan wants to try to bring peace and stability in the region, let it be Kartarpur, let it be Kashmir, why is BJP so much nervous about all these developments?
I think there are two reasons for the action by the Indian External Ministry regarding the telephone conversation. One is that of recent past we have seen there has been a very active Pakistan policy on Kashmir. There has been, as you know, a very damaging for the Indians, a report by the Human Rights Commissioner on the human rights violations that are in Kashmir. Secondly, the Secretary General's statement also there. So, and this is in the background of the elections that are being held in India. I think this is and that election campaign of Prime Minister Modi seems to be based on two major planks. One is the Pakistan bashing, and secondly, anti-Muslim aspect in the background of what is happening in the country itself. Unemployment, the suicides that are taking place in the country, the promised economic and financial benefits that are coming to the people. So all these factors have come into play, and they have tried to divert attention from that and to show that they are very strong, both anti-Pakistan and anti-Muslims, by raising an objection to the conversation that took place. Prime Minister, Foreign Minister merely rang Mirez to tell him about the forthcoming conference that is taking place in London and to apprise him of what Pakistan has been doing for the Kashmir cause as a recognized UN party to the dispute. But what is the interesting thing to note here is that you know we have seen in the past that under the A.B. Vajpayee, the former Prime Minister of India, he in fact encouraged contacts between Pakistan and the Hurriyat conference. And but for the first time, we saw that in August of 2014, when our former High Commissioner Basit invited the Hurriyat leaders, they boycotted the Foreign Secretary level talks that were to be held.
They called off the talks.
They called off the talks. Right. So, but it is puzzling why they should do so, because the fact remains that the Kashmir is not what the Indians are claiming, that Pakistan is encouraging terrorism there and by you know giving this call.
That is the same mantra that they use all the time.
All the time, but it is not you know it is not terrorism. It is supporting the right of self-determination there.
Brigadier Afzal, talking about this whole thing and the way BJP is criticizing it, Delhi has said that this phone call was an attempt to undermine India's unity. What kind of unity are we talking about here? Killing innocent children and women and elderly people in Kashmir is the unity that they are calling this Indian unity? What do they mean by Indian unity?
Yes, if we just see ever since Mr. Modi has taken over as Prime Minister in India, and he got a lot of majority and became the Prime Minister. Ever since he came to power, he has been playing different cards one by one, right? And his basic agenda before the election and even after the election is anti-Muslim, anti-Pakistan, anti-Kashmiris, and all the time leveling different type of allegations against all those elements inside India, especially the Muslims, just to grade them terrorists, just to give them different names. This has been the culture that we are seeing. This is what all was his strategy, you can call it, whatever. But now since the election are coming there in India, and it is now the mirror effect, it is written on the wall. In the state elections, we have seen the results, and that suggest what could be the fate of their final next elections of the federation. So this is basically the time when they are running into panic, and they are trying to use different tools to gain some popularity for the next election. And if understandingly, if we just see issue of Kashmir, it's a very, very sensitive issue between both the nuclear states, and it is for last 70 years that both the countries are facing this issue, and there have been 3 main wars also between 2 countries, and we have a long unsettled border. There is always violation, that we have the killing of the innocent civilians.
And recently, the way Indian Army Chief has been giving statements against Pakistan, do you consider this, as a soldier yourself, professional enough? Because Indian Army Chief is giving direct political mileage to BJP by giving anti-Pakistan statements.
Yes, this Indian Army Chief is such a senior officer, and he has been giving different statements against Pakistan. And ever since he has taken over as Army Chief of Indian Army, I think what all things that he have come out from him had not been in favor of their own country, in favor of their own army, right? Whatever the allegation he tried to raise against Pakistan, they were virtually proved, and he had to feel embarrassed every time. Last I think 2 to 3 weeks there was a lot of gossip was all around going on media also, that he said gave statement something about Janab Bajwa, that probably Janab Bajwa has served with the Indian Army chief. It was a
That
story.
was the previous army chief, not the
Yes,
one who
it
is
was,
serving,
but
right.
then there was a story, right? So that it was confusion, right? And then it was very evidently it was clarified. So basically, they have nothing left in their hand to play up, and for this, with this, they keep they keep engaging their own general public also, and institution also. Then there is another culture within India, that all the head of the different organization, like chief of the Air Force, chief of the army staff, and other people, they keep giving such statements against Pakistan, against Kashmir, just to please Modi.
So make a whole environment, anti-Pakistan environment, and let's help Modi in playing his anti-Pakistan, strong anti-Pakistan cards. This is very understandable. Ambassador Rizvi, not just India is becoming not just anti-Muslim, as Brigadier Aftab was saying, or anti-Kashmiris for that matter. Recently, when Pakistan took this initiative, Prime Minister Imran Khan, he went there to inaugurate the Kartarpur corridor. That too was criticized by the BJP government, by the BJP leaders, many people from RSS and Shiv Sena. A lot of experts also think that BJP and the present Indian government and India is also becoming increasingly anti-Sikhs as well. Is that true? Do you see it that way? Because they have been criticizing Kartarpur.
Well, they are not becoming an anti-Sikh per se, but naturally they are concerned that Pakistan is, from people to people contact, is now increasing. And even the people, in India are recognizing the fact that Pakistan it wants a friendship relationship, people-to-people relationship with India. And take the recent example of the telephone conversation that took place. The Mirwais himself has pointed out that this Kashmiris is a disputed territory, and Pakistan has a right to speak up. And he spoke also that this is something which should be encouraged. And secondly, even the former Minister of Indian occupied Kashmir, the chairman of the PDP, she also said that this has brought the relationship to a lowest ebb between India and Pakistan. So it is to be seen that this is happening because of the fact that Pakistan persistent offer of dialogue, number one, and the danger that is coming from India with violation of human rights and line of control and the threats that are emanating from there is finding a resonance internationally.
Right.
So, they need to try and counteract that. Now, what is being said there about the grounds which were presented by to our High Commissioner by the Indian Foreign Secretary is totally rejected, because they're saying that we are, as I mentioned earlier, that Pakistan is encouraging these terrorists and so on. They are Hurriyat is not it is a political entity there. Pakistan has in fact supporting them for a long time, as I mentioned in the past from there. So and we have internationally, the United Nations, there are several resolutions which indicate that Kashmir is a disputed territory, number one, and even bilaterally, we have seen that in the Simla agreement it is recognized as such, and even the Lahore declaration it is recognized as such. So I mean, this is just something which they're trying to fool the international world on when they are saying that Pakistan is open for dialogue, Pakistan is wanting friendship, and they are keep harping about terrorism. What is happening in Kashmir, the Kashmiris have a right as a internationally recognized right to take up resistance against all forms against an occupying force, including the right to take up arms. So even if Pakistan was to extend not only political, diplomatic support to them, we could even go to the extent of giving them arms support also. Internationally, it is recognized. And don't forget that recently, as mentioned about the army chief in India, they talked about it, that they had carried out a surgical strike inside Kashmir. Now that is itself gives us a right internationally to retaliate on them. But the fact remains that Pakistan has shown a lot of constraint and is trying to go through a path of dialogue to resolve the problem.
But at the same time, that drama of surgical strike was also exposed by the DG ISPR at that time. And army took the Pakistani journalists and the international journalists to Kashmir, and they asked India that if they can tell us where did they carry out the surgical strikes. Why this drama of surgical strikes, Brigadier Afzal?
Actually, they have been giving different type of operational briefing to, I call it General Modi, right? So he feel very happy when some army general walks up to him and tell him that we can do this against Pakistan, we can do this against Pakistan. So he feels very happy. So they
some very aggressive ideas.
And just to please him. Then they planned that there should be some surgical strike against Pakistan just for the morale boosting of the troops, morale boosting of their masses, and particularly the people in power,
to please
the
them.
rulers. But they tried, but it was so poorly planned action. It was a very minor, small action on the border, which is totally insignificant, and giving him such a big strategic name, right? This strategic name of such strikes, it has a lot of implications, and meaning by surgical strike, meaning by that you have entered into Pakistan, you have crossed the international border. So they just, it was all sort of drama.
So do you think that this statement of surgical strike actually embarrassed Indian people and Indian army? Because when you give such kind of statement, obviously the whole world is listening to you. There are so many other armies, Pakistan army and Chinese army and other countries in the region. They all know that this is not a professional statement, that this cannot happen. And that was embarrassing for the Indian army.
How surgical strike can take place there? Our infantry military units are sitting right on the border. And how can you
talk about
enter Pakistan from that, where already we have fortified defensive positions on the border?
By the way, they later changed the statement and they said that there were paratroopers, and they went into Pakistan and then they came back from the working boundary and the line of control. So this was certainly a drama that we saw at that time. Mr. Rizvi, this thing now, many people think that Pakistan certainly wants peace and stability in the region. We want peace with India as well. But do you think that at times perhaps Pakistan is going out of the way to have peace with India? Because we are trying for peace. We want to talk with them on the sidelines of UN as well. But India doesn't reciprocate what Pakistan is doing. Should we continue giving such statements that we want better relations with India? Or should we stop this for a while? How should we go about it, diplomatically speaking?
I think the reaction of India on the telephone conversation, I think we should rethink about what Pakistan should be doing, because this is really a low point that India has brought Pakistan-India relationship. Yes, we have been giving political, moral and diplomatic support. But I think we have to be a little more, because they're trying to deflect their own grave violations of human rights, and even war crimes, amount of war crimes, considering that they're using pellet guns against unarmed children and so forth. that we should be a little more aggressive with them, and let us also highlight the weakness on that side. First, we should, I think, try and get to the human rights organization and ask them to demand that they should investigate the human rights violations that are taking place. We should get the Security Council, or United Nations rather, to Secretary General to ask that put pressure on the Indian government to release the prisoner of wars that they have, the political prisoners, I beg your pardon, they have there, and also to do away with the draconian laws that they have there. And I think importantly, it's high time when they seem to be dragging and talking about terrorism and terrorists and branding Pakistan, that we should approach the International Court of Justice to seek an advisory on the well-documented role of Prime Minister Modi on the massacre that took place in 2000 in Gujarat. We know very well that before he became Prime Minister, he was recognized as a terrorist and he was banned from many countries. So
US especially, he wasn't allowed to enter
yes.
US.
So, they are talking about accusing Pakistan, a country which is wanting a dialogue and peace. And they are, on the contrary, they have led by a country, and by his actions that he's taking, he demonstrates that, leopard has not changed his spots.
Yeah, right. We'll continue our discussion on Indian atrocities in Kashmir. Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir, and we want a peaceful solution to the issue of Kashmir. Kashmiris have the right for self-determination, and Pakistan supports fully the stance of Kashmir. We'll take a break and stay with us. Welcome back. In recent past, the international observers, experts in Pakistan and India have seen more aggression from the Indian side on line of control and working boundary. What is the reason for that? Ambassador Afzal, talking about this increasing Indian aggression on line of control and working boundary, why is that? Pakistan has been trying for peace and stability, but India is showing aggression. Is it because of the deals that India is having, international deals with big powers like United States, Russia for that matter, and that is basically making India more aggressive and more confident in carrying out these violations on line of control and working boundary and the atrocities in Indian occupied Kashmir? Do you see it that way?
Yes, after mainly 1965 war, we had a Tashkent agreement, and then after in 72 we had Shimla agreement, and both the agreement, it is in that instrument it is clearly laid down that this line of control will be respected till such time the issues are peacefully resolved. However, this is the only longest, I think, border in the world that it is physically occupied by troops from both sides, and when it is the troops are deployed on both sides and they are opposing each other. So the tactical units deployed there are always chances of fire coming from either side. But it's a good point on part of Pakistan that we have never initiated any such violation. It is we always just respond to that violation, and we very ruthlessly and very strongly respond to that sort of violations. Now the question is why the Indians are doing so. It is ever since for last 70 years we are facing this problem that Sometime there is a agreement between both the countries and it stops. But the Indians, they try to harass basically the Kashmiris. On both sides of the border, the Kashmiris are living. So, if the Pakistan fires, again the Kashmiris are victim. If they fire, they are the Kashmiris, they are living. Less I am talking of the line of control, working boundary, because in case of working boundary, in Pakistan, side of Pakistan we have a Sialkot district and it is not Kashmir. So, there we have a different type of response and different type of policy to handle. But on the line of control, every day they come up with basically these are the fire raids and the artillery fire, mortar fires, it comes. So, that is basically to harass the locals living across the line of control, that they should not be against India. And the second is they keep sending such message to the Pakistan also, that probably they are showing aggressiveness in their dispositions and in their defenses. Otherwise, it has no effect as long as the Pakistan army is concerned.
Right. Certainly, but there perhaps might be international implications as well, Ambassador Rizvi. Do you see it that way, this aggression from the Indian side? And many people think that in the last 2-3 years, and since BJP is in power, they are getting confident in carrying out this kind of atrocities in Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir, and aggression and line of control and working boundary. Is it because of the international green signal that they are getting?
Well, they don't have a green signal, so to speak. Certainly, this is something which is worrisome. And the general, we've had wars in the past. So the Indians then came up with the possibility that they can have a cold start. They have moved their formations in closer to the border, thinking they can come and have a quick entry into Pakistan, teach Pakistan a lesson, and then go back and so on before the international community can act. Now, we of Pakistan, of course, has reacted to this and made its own countermeasures for any such eventuality, which is keeping the Indians in check. They know very well that if they do venture, it will be a grave miscalculation on their part. But the fact remains that it is the international community, especially United Nations, United Nations, has to be sensitized to the inherent danger that lies on the escalation of the line of control. We had an agreement in 2003 under which there was, virtually no, for many years there was nothing, no violation as such, but since the Modi's government, there have been very grave violations. Scores of people have been killed and many wounded. So it is important that one should make sure that this should not get out of hand. And for that reason, I think the UN has a role to play, that they have to send a team to investigate and find measures to verify the violation that is taking place from there.
And by the way, they did recently in a report in last June.
Yes.
The UN report came and they also mentioned the Indian atrocities in that report.
Yes.
And India was baffled by that development.
Exactly. Now, just the atrocities and also the danger, the violation that is taking place, that is important. Now, you see, the point is that the UN Secretary General has the possibility of trying to resolve the problem with Pakistan, India, the dispute. Under Article 6, of course, it's not like Article 7, which is, force can be used. But under Article 6, it provides mediation and arbitration. The Secretary General should try and move forward in this direction. But if India, their point is that India does not want to agree. But did the opponent agree when it came to South Sudan, Yemen, or for that matter, Libya, or Mali? I mean, they took, and they took unilateral action. So what is required now is for the Secretary General, keeping in mind the danger of a nuclear war breaking out in the region, to use his good offices and move forward on the Kashmir issue.
But India, Brigadier Afzal, has totally denied Kashmiris as a party to this whole conflict. Interestingly, the way India has been depicting this whole issue is that this is an issue between India and Pakistan. They don't consider the Kashmiris as a party to this whole issue. Pakistan's stance is that this is an issue of people of Kashmir with India, which is the occupying force over there. And Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir. How can the international community make India understand this, that it is basically the people of Kashmir who are against the Indian atrocities and Indian occupation over there?
India has basically been since long tried to ignore the will of people of Kashmir there in India, and trying to institute different measures politically and through the state machinery to get some benefit for their government, not for the Kashmiris. And every time they went wrong. Resultantly, just see this movement which came up after 90, and now it is a proper movement for their independence. And secondly, they ignored this, and after that the Pakistan had grown nuclear, and it is one of the most powerful nuclear power in the region. So, growing nuclear of Pakistan, I think this credit goes to India, that every time they ignored our issues and they threatened Pakistan and posed regular threat, particularly after 1971 war, and that resulted the induced effect, and that resulted into Pakistan paid full attention toward their strong defense. And as long as the international community is concerned, media is totally blank as long as the Kashmir issue is there inside India, and the world is not getting the actual information whatever is happening there through their official channel. Whatever is there, it is the Pakistan that we are crying around in the world and trying to tell it to the world that what type of atrocities are taking place, and they are using use of this pellet gun and all such things against the children, youth. So, this is a type of things which have to be further brought in the media, in front of the world, in front of the United Nations, so that we can draw their attention and they can intervene and they can come and solve the problem.
Right. We'll continue our discussion, and there was this international ski event at Naltar, Gilgit-Baltistan, and this event at Naltar was attended by various sports people. It was an interesting event. Tourism is coming back in Pakistan. There was a time when Pakistan was fighting extremism and terrorism. There were parts in Pakistan which were attacked by TTP, Jamaatul Ahrar, and these terrorist organizations who now have their safe havens in Afghanistan. Pakistan has been fighting extremism and terrorism. Tourism is coming back. Pakistan wants to open all these places to the international community. We'll be discussing about this as well, about Naltar after this break. Stay with us.
सरकार से अपने किचन का, अपने मामलात का खर्चा ले, लेकिन उस मर्द हुर का, इमरान खान का ये सलाम पेश करना चाहिए कि वो वजीर आजम होते हुए 1 रुपया सरकार के खजाने से नहीं लेता। जब वो वजीर आजम बने 88 गाड़ियां, 4 हेलीकॉप्टर और 300 कनाल का घर वजीर आजम का था। उन्होंने कहा कि जब मैं पाकिस्तान के अवाम से कुर्बानी की बात करता हूं, जब मैं ये कहता हूं कि पाकिस्तान के लोग कुर्बानी दें,
Welcome back. We're discussing Indian atrocities in Indian occupied Kashmir. Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir. Ambassador Rizvi, talking about this whole issue of Kashmir and the way we were discussing what is happening inside Kashmir and India. Many people now who stand for liberal India, who stand for tolerant India, are also criticizing what BJP is doing in Indian occupied Kashmir. How do you see this development in India?
Well, you know, they are criticizing what is happening in Kashmir, and they are intellectuals, professors, authors who are unhappy with the way things are going from there. And of late, the Kashmiri's voice is finding more resonance even abroad. As I mentioned earlier, we have the London conference, also the British Parliament holding this exhibition, which India tried to stop, and they were rebuffed on that. They're going ahead with it. And of course, there is then the European Union also, which is having also a discussion on that. So the issue of Kashmir is having a resonance now more and more in the international community and within India. But like I said earlier, that the Modi's policies is and this action is done because not only against the Muslims but also against the minorities, and our criticism is coming about what is happening within India, and it remains to be seen in the background of setbacks that he had some in number of major states on the elections, that how he will fare for the elections coming up and whether he comes back into office again.
Right. Brigadier Afzal, your concluding remarks on the Indian atrocities in Kashmir, and what should be Pakistan's approach in discussing this issue with India, since we know that, and we have been discussing that India is not reciprocating anything initiated by Pakistan.
I think with the new government here and now in Pakistan, we should gear up all our diplomatic efforts, political efforts, and international effort through the United Nations, and so that we should involve the whole world into this problem. That this is not only a problem of Pakistan; it is a problem should be highlighted like it is a problem of whole of the world. That there the people their basic right of self-determination is being violated, and they have not been given the opportunity to select about their future. So I think the present government is already quite serious on this issue, as compared, I must say, to the other governments here in Pakistan also. But there is yet a need that we should harness all the available resources to gear up our effort.
Right. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Ambassador Rizvi, pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your time. Ambassador Brigadier Afzal, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. Indian atrocities continue in Indian occupied Kashmir, and this has been happening for the last 70 years. Many innocent people have lost their lives in Kashmir. Pakistan stands with the people of Kashmir, and Pakistan has taken many initiatives to resolve this issue with India. But every time we have seen that India is baffled by any initiative that is taken by Pakistan. Let it be Kartarpur corridor. Pakistan opened the Kartarpur corridor so that the Sikh pilgrims can come to their holy place and visit their holy places. But that too was criticized by the Indian media and the BJP government. Interestingly, Pakistan stands for peace and stability, and we hope that Indian government would reciprocate that. Having said that, recently a ski event was concluded in Nalta in the northern areas of Pakistan in Gilgit-Baltistan, perhaps one of the most beautiful places in Pakistan. Skiers from 15 countries took part in this ski event. This is one of the most beautiful places in Pakistan. Personally, since I have spent 2 years in Gilgit-Baltistan, and I've been a very big fan of this place. This place is a must visit for any Pakistani, I would say, or even for the foreigners who are in Pakistan. You must visit this place, and hope you liked our show today. Thank you for watching today's show. See you next time. Khuda Hafiz.
Passion for polo will be the highest. Between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Shandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700